She's Hawaiian.
Really sets the scene.
Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful Period 2 Honors Bio class. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, there we are. And so this is part 2 of our chapter on development. And so the second part is going to focus on human, embryonic, and fetal development. So first thing I want to talk to you about is what we're probably most familiar with. Maybe, okay, are trimesters. So how many are there if it's a 3? So people will talk about, and that's common vernacular, the first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. So I want to break it down that way first, okay? She's in a loving, stable relationship. This is not, whoops, I slipped and fell on a penis. Thoughtful planning to get to this point, okay? So the first trimester is embryonic and early fetal development. Women in their first trimester are usually exhausted. They don't look pregnant, but they can just sleep in any time. It's exhausting, this part of development. Sorry, that's my cousin. That was my uncle. Remember I told you about my uncle? She had a picture with her and her dad. Sadness. Okay. Second trimester, these are when the organs start to develop in the baby, and the baby looks distinctively human at the end of the second trimester. So month 6 or so, they can actually survive if born now. It's Herculean efforts usually to keep them alive, but they can survive. Yes?
So the whole thing with abortion, when
Yes.
does it form, like?
I'm going to go through that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to totally go through that. Okay, then the third trimester, the fetus is growing. It's mostly about getting bigger during the third trimester, growing really rapidly. They tend to put on like a pound a week at this point, so they are really growing. I want you to look at how little a baby is, though, and this is not any way me making a judgment. I'm not trying to be judgy, McJudgy here when I say this, which usually when people say that, they're going to be judgy, possibly. These babies are tiny. So when you say I'm eating for 2, okay, most of the time it's like this big, okay? Something this big gets full super fast, okay? So you're not like, I have to have 2 cheeseburgers. No, not really, okay? So just think that through. The reason why I tell you that is when you are pregnant, which again, you're going to be a thoughtful decision. You're not going to be in high school when this happens, though, love to you, and I will hold your baby if it does, okay? But you want to make this thoughtful. You want to think this through, because every extra pound that you put on, what do you have to do? You probably want to take it off later if you want to fit into any of your clothes. So you will go through hormonal changes, and you just want to be careful, because some people are like, well, I'm eating for 2. But then other people, especially in the first trimester, they'll be sick as dogs. They can't go 20 minutes without puking. And they literally have to have crackers by their bed. So before they even get out of bed, they have to nibble on a cracker, because if they get up, they'll puke. Or they'll have to drive down I had a sister-in-law. She would have to stop the car regularly, pull over, puke, and then start driving again. To me, that just sounds hideous and sounds like some excellent birth control. But she did have 3 kids. Yes?
So then how do cravings work?
It's weird. Just some people crave certain things and they just want it, and they can't explain to you why they want it, but they just want it and they want it right now. And it's a hormonal thing. Yes.
In the first 2 pictures, the baby was like head facing up, and then now
Yes.
it's facing down. How does?
Yeah, it changes. They do. They switch around, and they can tell when the baby changes, and you can feel the baby move. Like I used to be able to. You could look on my stomach, and you could see Jacob was a sunny side up baby. He never flipped around. He flipped around, but he was forward facing. They're supposed to put their back up against, or their back up against your tummy eventually. Their back is right here. Like you'd be rubbing their back when you rub their tummy. He didn't do that. He just wanted to keep looking out. And you could watch his knee. It would just go, knee, in the same spot. So much so, I'd be in class and I'd be like, move, and I would try to move his knee over, and it'd be gone for a minute because the skin would be so sore right there. I knew if I went and grabbed a scalpel and I just went like this leg would come out. And I would go home and I would ice. Because you could see the outline of his legs, doing this. And I would go home and I would ice my stomach right there because it literally hurt so bad. And he just liked to go, And he was like, no, this is what I'm doing. Okay. But anyway, it is super cool. But on your notes, the first part, we're going to do a quick comparison between us, a chicken and a reptile and a human. Okay? And you can see the embryo in the center of each of these. And the membrane that goes around, whether it's a chicken or a lizard or a human, the membrane that's closest around the baby is called the amnion, and you've heard of the amniotic sac. So that amnion is closest to the baby. Look at your chart that I gave you. Do you see where it says amnion? Yep. And I have contains protective what? Fluid. In a chick, and the same. Just put same. Same for us. Now that's the innermost layer. The outermost layer is called the chorion. So the chorion for a chicken, that's where the gas exchange occurs. So when a chicken lays an egg, and it's a fertilized egg, the shell, and then you have the chorion. This you have experienced when you have a hard-boiled egg and you crack the shell off, then there's that other membrane that kind of is right around it, and sometimes you try to push it off and then it kind of messes up your hard-boiled egg. That's a chorion. That's gas exchange for the developing chick. For us, that becomes part of our placenta for nutrient exchange. So for a chorion, for a chick, is gas exchange. For humans, it's the placenta. There is an allantois. It collects nitrogenous waste for a chick. Think about it. When a chick is developing, all of its nitrogenous waste are collected within the shell, and they stay there until it hatches. For humans, it becomes our umbilical vessels. Every time I peed when I was pregnant, I was also peeing for Caleb and Jacob. Right? Because all of their nitrogenous waste would cross the placenta, then it would be in my blood, and then my kidneys would filter out their waste. Does that make sense? Okay? Yolk sac. For a chick, the yolk contains nutrients. For us, the yolk sac is going to become our red blood cell production. That's where your red blood cells are for. So across this placenta, if I'm drinking coffee with caffeine in it, it's going to be in my blood supply. So who else was drinking coffee? The babies. Okay, so if I'm doing heroin, who else is doing heroin? The babies. Okay, and you need to think about that. If I drink a beer, let's say I have a couple of, upload complete. Okay, if I don't know if we missed that. If I drink a beer, I might after a couple, if I'm on an empty stomach, personally, if I'm on an empty stomach and I've had nothing to eat and I slam down a couple of beers, I will feel that. I'll be like, nah. Now, imagine a little tiny, tiny baby drinking a couple of beers, okay? Now, the sad thing is people do that, and that totally impacts fetal alcohol, the development, and that's fetal alcohol syndrome. Here's the problem. When the baby is maturing and developing those organs, it's early on, and so you don't even know you're pregnant. You wouldn't see. So a woman could be, 1 or 2 months pregnant, go to a bar, get, nice, pour of bourbon and knock it back. And that's going to influence that baby more than if she's 9 months pregnant. If you saw a woman who's 9 months pregnant going up to a bar and I'll have a couple of shots, you'd probably be going, what are you doing? No, But it'll be worse if she does it earlier when you can't even tell that she's pregnant, especially if a woman is in denial and didn't want to be pregnant, she's not taking a pregnancy test, she's going about her life and whatever. That's when you can really wreck a kid. Yes?
So like with alcohol, does it kill the baby or does it just
It usually, I'm assuming if she was, a total drunk, it could cause a spontaneous abortion, a miscarriage. But usually it's going to affect them in their development. Yeah. They will physically look different, and mentally the processing is not going to be as good. Yeah. All right, now, let's go through our different stages. So here is early on in conception. We're a solid ball of cells. What are we right here? Marula. Don't worry about your notes because I have like a little summary that puts it all together. I'm just going to show you some pictures. So in the first week, you will go from marula to blastula. So week 1, you get to the blastula stage. Okay, so that's where you'll be at the end of week 1. When you go to gastrula stage will happen in week 2. Now, I'm not going to be gross, but I want to help you remember this. Maybe I'm being gross, okay? When somebody says, I have to go number 1 or I have to go number 2, you know what they're doing when they have number 2, and they might have a little gastrula, okay? Blast into the first week. You're at a gastrula at week 2, okay? Now, let's keep going. Here is week 3. Week 3, what stage comes after gastrula? Nerula. So what I've done is I took week 3 and I turned it around. Now it looks like a cursive N, right? Nerula. And this is when that heart starts to form, okay? So that would be one way to remember that. So now go to your notes where it says embryonic development. Week 1, fertilization, morula, and what? Blastula. Week 2 is gastrula, and you're going to remember that in some way, and you finish implantation. Week 3, a nerula and heart. Nerula and heart. Okay. Weeks 4 and 5. Weeks 4, you start to get the limb buds. How many limbs do you have? 4. 4th week, 4 limbs. Week 5, the senses develop. Have you heard of your 5 senses? So that's how you can remember that. 4th week, you can start to get the limb buds. 5th week, you get your senses. So on your notes, weeks 4 and 5, limb buds and sense organs. Okay, so here's a real, there's a drawing over here at the 5th week. These right here are the limb buds, and over here you can see the limb bud. Oh, nice coloring. Here you can see the limb buds here, but this is a what? Tail. So you have a tail during parts of your development. Okay, so that's the 5th week. Okay, here's month 1. Here's month 2. Okay, so we're now at about the 8th or 9th week. So, oh, I skipped over. Weeks 6 through 8, more human looking, and the organ systems are established. Human looking and the organ systems are established. By the 3rd month, some of your cartilage is starting to become bone. And if you have good visualization, you could tell male from female. So months 3 through 4, cartilage becomes bone, and you can tell the sex. Can tell the sex. And then I want you to add in the placenta, which is critical. It happens by the 10th week. Placenta by the 10th week. Now, if the placenta doesn't develop normally, if things aren't going to plan, what's going to happen? Miscarriage. Most all miscarriages happen prior to the 10th week. So later, when you're in a loving, stable relationship and you've graduated from college and you've been in a nice monogamous relationship for a good length of time, and then you decide to get pregnant, you can do what you want, but people usually say to wait when you find out. Maybe you tell your parents or your best friend or whatever, but to announce it to the world, wait until the what? 10th week. Because if something's going to go wrong, it's probably going to happen in the first 10 weeks. And I've never had a miscarriage, so I cannot speak to this. But if I have had a friend who has a miscarriage at the appropriate time, not right away. But usually if you have a miscarriage within the 10th week, it's because things aren't going what? Well. And it would not have worked out well had they continued on. And so it's just a normal process that happens when things are not developing. Okay? So placenta forms at week 10. And then by months, here you can see the placenta starting to develop here. Here's the embryo. Here you can see the amniotic sac. Here's month 4. Here's month 5. What is this? Umbilical cord. Here's month 6, a real baby. And here's month 7. And at month 7, the fetus can survive and eyelids can open. Fetus can survive and eyelids open. Fetus can survive and the eyelids open. Here is month 8. Here is a 9-month fetus. At this point, they've turned around, and that's what they always look for, is the turning around. Okay, so the head is right here pushing against the cervix. Here's a month 9. Obviously, this baby's born. Okay, and here is my little summary developmental chart for you, if you want to put that in your notes, all summarized. Okay, good. So let me help you on this one. It finishes implantation in the 2nd week, so when do you think it started it? First. Now, you might miss this one because I have kind of pared the lecture down a little bit, and normally I would have you write that in there, but so this is like, you know, I didn't specifically say this one, so don't stress out about it if you missed it. Okay, good. So yeah, it starts at the blastula at the 1st week, and it ends by the 2nd week.
Oh, John Madden.
Three,
What does that mean?
2. Let's go, PETA. Good. Well, 58% of you got that. Similarities between a bird and a mammal and a reptile. We don't have the same amount of yolk, right? I told you a bird has way more yolk than we do. So that's why you would not pick C. So what that really points to is similarities as evolutionary relationships. Similarities. So you could put that up next to your membrane part at the top if you wanted to. I think cursive writing. Almost ready to give birth here. I'm going to give birth in just a second. Oh, so close. What did somebody say? No. Tell them what happens in the 4th and the 5th week. Limbas and senses. Come on now. There we go. What? Good job. I want to be Carrie Bradshaw. I know.
King.
Baby. Aww. Okay, where could you find the answer to this question? In your notes? Where are your notes? In front of you? Okay, I'm just checking.
Dang, I'm the first one. What? What? I put it in name.
Oh my gosh. So what stage are you at by the end of the first week?
You're like a
Blastula. So what comes before the blastula? Marula. So that has to happen in the first week as well. Yay! That's right. One again. Good job, Michael Kors. All right. So, birth involves 3 basic stages that we're going to review. Your pituitary gland in your brain starts secreting something called oxytocin, which makes your uterus contract, which pushes on your cervix, which sends a signal back for your uterus to contract more. And as your uterus contracts more, it pushes on that cervix again and again and again. When they say, don't push yet, if you've watched a movie or something, they say, don't push yet. The reason why you don't push yet is the cervix, which is a ring-like muscle between your vagina and your uterus, it has to dilate enough so that the baby can get out. So if that hasn't dilated yet, it doesn't do you any good to push because it's just going to bang, 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 bang from that side. It's not going to be a comfortable feeling. So they just say, just relax through it until the cervix has dilated to 10 and you've effaced or it's thinned. That way when you push, something will come out. Okay? So stage 1, the cervix has got to dilate and your amniotic sac's got to break. It will either break naturally. Neither time did it break naturally for me. I was at the hospital. Both times I gave birth within 30 minutes of arriving at the hospital. After the first time, they said you could not be more than 10 minutes from the hospital, at the end of my pregnancy. But my amniotic sac, it wasn't enough pressure for it to break. And so they looked like a coat hanger, long ass thing where you're looking at it, you're like, oh, and they just, and you're like, oh God. And then it just feels like you peed yourself. Okay? But then they clean you all up. It's amazing. Okay? Then part 2, the baby comes out, push, push, push. It's like remember this, gentlemen, if you're coaching your partner or ladies, it's like you're taking the biggest dump of your life. Except I pray to the Lord God in heaven, please do not let me dump while I'm giving birth because that sounds like hideous. And women tell stories of it. They don't normally tell because it's like embarrassing. Like I took this big, I did not, and I am so thankful. But it's the same muscles. When they tell you bear down, just imagine you're taking the biggest crap of your life, okay? And which it is, okay? Just a different opening. And then part 3, once you're done and you get the baby out, then you have to give birth to the placenta. So you push some more, but that's like jelly, gelatinous. It doesn't hurt. When it comes out, it's just like, and you come out. And I would tell you, if you say gross, 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 if you don't like what comes out of it, don't put anything into it. Right? Okay? Because you know the process. It's not like, I don't know how that happened. Okay? So, stages. First, contraction and amnion breaks. Second, mother pushes and baby emerges. Mother pushes and baby emerges. And then third, the afterbirth, the placenta and the amniotic sac. So this is a woman's vagina right here, and her legs are up. And this is the baby coming out. So she pushed out the hardest part there. Yes?
So as soon as you give birth, does your stomach just
Yeah. It does. It does. I remember I just put on shorts I had. They were the biggest shorts I had, but they were still in my closet. You know what I mean? And it just goes, unless yeah, it'll be blubbly, blubbly, it's like there's a little something there, but it goes away. You just, everything goes back. Like that, and if you get an episiotomy, which I did both times, they give you a shot in the middle of birth, or like early on, at your vaginal opening, they give you a shot. That you can feel. You're like, there's something stinging there. And then they cut the vagina down a little bit, and to open up the opening so it's easier for the baby to get out, because they don't want it to tear all the way to your anus, because that's like a jagged tear if that happens, and that can be really painful. But then that heals right back up to normal vagina size. Yeah.
Great.
Okay? Normal vagina size. Okay? Now, it does. They stitch it up afterwards, and then they check the stitches. Yeah.
Mario.
All right.
Not funny.
Now, lactation, the same hormone that makes the baby come out makes your milk come out, and so when you are first nursing after you've given birth, like if you feel like pain during like I would feel rhythmically nauseous when I was in labor, and so when you first start nursing, it's the same thing that makes the milk letdown happen, and so I felt like sick to my stomach while I was nursing initially, because you're just like, whoa, because it's the same hormone, but then that changes as well. And we'll talk more about hormones and how those work a little bit later in a different chapter. Okay, so now I want to go to human development after birth, and let's talk about, there are 3 hypotheses on aging, okay? 3 hypotheses. One is, it's in your DNA, okay? If you come from people that live for a long time, then you will probably live for a long time. So genetic origin, offspring of long-lived parents live long. Offspring of long-lived parents live long. Think about it in your family. Does your family live long? Is there a history of that? Then the second hypothesis is whole body process, that you have hormonal decline. And you have that one already there. And then the third one are extrinsic factors, health habits. So years of poor health habits contribute most to aging. Have you ever seen someone where you can tell they probably partied through their youth and they just look haggard? Do you know what I'm talking about? So years of brutalizing your body, okay? Nobody decides, oh, I want to be an alcoholic when I grow up, addicted to cigarettes and heroin, okay? Nobody says that when they're younger. But as you continually abuse your body, you either don't keep fit, you don't eat healthy, you will look haggard earlier. That's just what's going to happen. Okay? So what kind of things happens when you age? Your skin, it sags and wrinkles. I gave you these. Processing to transport your blood vessels become harder. You lose things like memory and senses and taste. Reproduction, women go through menopause and stop being able to give birth, and normally men couldn't get an erection anymore, so it didn't matter. But now, like I said, we have that grandma abusing drug Viagra. They can get an erection longer and longer, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but normally those two systems kind of shut down at the same time. And the conclusion, what most studies come to, is good health habits started when young slow the aging process and contributes to a long and healthy lifespan. And that's your last thing on your notes. Okay, and you're all done. We'll do the last one too in the review. Okay, good job, you guys. When is your quiz over this? Friday. Next week.
No.
Okay, wait, let me look at my calendar real quick. Let me see if I have any chance of pushing that off. Yep.
This couple is walking at an angle.
Guys, would you like, because we just finished it here at the end of class, would you like me to push that quiz back one day? Yes. And not have it Friday? Yes. And move it to Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes.
Think about it. What? No, that's not going to happen. Let's make a decision because I have to tell the rest of my class. Tuesday it is. Tuesday! Yes, let me just stop this real quick. Okay, so quiz on Tuesday, not Friday.